about a particular class holiday. Let's move on, my dear learner. Already now, let's remember we just talked about what? Features of a diary, and I'm sure right now we can identify them together. Let's go. We're just going to skim before we even go through this particular diary. What is there? Very good, my dear learner. You have identified now. This is the day. It's a Monday. Also, there is what? The day. 12th what? October. Whose diary is this? Remember, I said this is your own. It's an outpouring of emotions. Actually, you're writing to yourself. You're writing to your friend, but the friend is your diary, and it's just you. In a way, you're writing to yourself. You just want to relieve some steam, something like that. So, this whose diary? This is Peach's diary. And remember, we talked about what? One feature is what? The salutation, which is friendly. Is it here? Definitely. You guessed right. Dear diary. This is so informal. It doesn't say dear sir, dear madam, but dear what? Dear diary. So it is so informal already. I'm sure you are actually checking up whether the features, do we have them here? It may not be all of them, my dear learner, but some of them are actually here. Now let's just again skim through. Is there any punctuation that has been used here for effect? Yes, my dear learner. Already we have what? We have this dash. Now we'll explain what it's used for. We already have an exclamation because now we are skimming. We are just getting this information. So we'll then discuss later what is the effect for this particular punctuation, my dear learner. Let's talk about sentences from the onset. It says, terrible Jenny. It's more like a phrase. Now, is Mantenga Cultural Village really that far? I know it's a question, but you will know, my dear learner, that even if it's a question, it's a type of even if it has a question mark at the end, but it is a type of a sentence. Okay, so there are others which have been used here. Now, where is the icon? Another probably short sentence. So it's a mixture of short and probably complex or compound sentences. Let us read this diary, my dear. Terrible Jenny. Is Mantenga Cultural Village really that far? The truck jolted and bumped, and we were thrown up and down till we ached. All right for Miss Sabete and Miss Nkosi. They were up front with the driver. Miss Sabete said it would help to toughen us up. Oh, and the weather. It's so humid. I felt like lying on the ground and staying there. Our living quarters are unspeakable. We are all close together, packed like sardines. The birds are hot, and someone has smelly feet. Ugh! Mr. Nkosi says it teaches us to live together and reminds us what real life is like. Where is the aircon? Let's just repeat for the benefit of someone who has just joined us. Maybe they were washing their hands or sanitizing. Let's read together. Terrible Jenny. Is Mantenga Cultural Village really that far? The truck jolted and bumped, and we were thrown up and down till we ached. All right for Miss Sabete and Mr. Nkosi. They were up front with the driver. Miss Sabete said it would help to toughen us up. Oh, and the weather. It's so humid. I feel like lying on the ground and staying there. Our living quarters are unspeakable. We are all close together, packed like sardines. The birds are hot, and someone has smelly feet. Ugh! Mr. Nkosi says it teaches us to live together and reminds us what real life is like. Where is the aircon? Now, my dear learner at home, let's go through. Remember, I said there are ideas in different paragraphs. The same thing in this entry. There is the main idea. So it's one paragraph of some sort, but it is actually an entry. So what is the main idea in this entry, my dear? Remember, I said there are entries and there's also an entry. This is just an entry, just for one particular day or one particular moment or time. So I'm going to ask you, my dear learner, now, generally, what is this about? Remember, we were reading Peach's class, we were reading, it is actually a diary about Peach's class holiday. And then we come. So what kind, generally the idea now is, what kind of a holiday is it? Let's start. I'm sure you are now saying it was just a terrible one. And you are right, my dear learner, because it begins just with this phrase, terrible what? Jenny. Terrible. So already we can tell that this person is not looking forward to what is actually going to happen. Look at the question, my dear Lena. Is Mantenga Cultural Village really that far? This is not an excited Peaches. Really that far? What is there, my dear Lena? There is an element of a complaint of some sort. Anyway, now let's move on, because we want to answer questions based on this particular entry. And we are saying now, what we are talking about here is that there is one main idea. It's a class holiday which was not so good. Let's look at the questions, my dear Lena. The first question says, where was the class holiday? That's a contextual question. What do we mean by contextual? We actually means that you are going to get the answer straight from the passage without even reading much, probably skimming. Now, where was the class holiday? Let's go back, my dear Lena, at home. Definitely, you guessed right. Mantenga Cultural Village. Yes. Now, let's move on. That's the first question. Mention two things that show that two things is in bold. So we take care of that. The journey was an uncomfortable one. Now we go back, my dear. Now, why was it uncomfortable? We could say truck jolted. Remember, we're using phrases. Probably bumped or were thrown up and down till we ate, my dear Lena. So we just need two of those. All right. Now, so the next question, what does it say? My dear Lena at home, what impressions does the author have about the living quarters? The first question was based on the journey. Be careful about that. Now it's about what? Living quarters. Okay, so now we have to focus on the living quarters over there. Right now, what do they say? The one thing, impressions. What is an impression? This is our attitudes about this thing. What are our opinions about this thing? Okay, what's our view? So from the onset, we can tell that the writer is actually not impressed. Why is Peaches not impressed? Because it said the quarters are unspeakable. They were closely packed together like sardines. The beds are hard. You pick any of those, my dear Lena. Now, let's move on to the next question. Now, it says, packed like sardines. What figure of speech has been used? This is a simile or simile. Explain its effects. Now, this is what we will be moving on, my dear Lena, that, when we're explaining an effect now, it shows that the speaker was uncomfortable. Packed like sardines. There was so much discomfort. Then that is the effect of the figure of speech. Now, how does the writer feel about this journey? This is a tone question. It's the voice. And I'm sure we can tell from the very first phrase or sentence of short sentence, terrible. Okay, this was the Peaches is not so excited about this. Look at the last question. Is the author justified to feel this way? When you talk about justify these questions, my dear Lena, it means now we have to think long and hard. We are trying to evaluate this. Now, he's feeling like this, but was it okay? Now, so one way, yes, justified because the journey was bad and the quarters are not so, something to look forward to. On the other side, not justified because even the teachers, they're saying, hey, you will toughen up from this particular experience. So, my dear Lena, what is it that has happened today? We have learned that we need to understand the dynamics of a text to be able to apply them in continuous writing. We read here, we steal, we take. Then we'll use in reading and writing. We'll use in continuous writing. Okay, which is what Mr. Lukhele was talking about. And also, we are saying keywords in a question are important where to respond to relevantly. And remember, my dear Lena, Just because it is an entry, it doesn't mean that it is a narrative. Like I went to Mbabane and everything. No, there were so many people. Then you start to expand on the event. No, it's not a story. You're just sharing your experience, brief and straight to the point. So, my dear Elena, I hope you've managed to understand what a diary is, the features of a diary, and we have gone through one together. So you should be able to identify features, especially on page 4 of your text, which is diary entries. That is in language for life, my dear Elena, at home. The new Enjoy English. Sorry about that. So then we should be able to answer questions confidently and everything. Thank you, my dear Lena. I hope you keep on sanitizing and social distancing and washing those hands. We'll meet again when we go through a formal text.
Thank you very much, Futhi, for your lesson, and we will be seeing you very, very soon. Thank you so much. We're hoping your Form 4s learned about informal writing and diary writing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Form 4s, do not go anywhere. Up next is your mathematics lesson with Ndingi Mamba. We will be right back after this.
Did you think about what I said?
I did, and I've made my decision. I'm not going to wait for the courts to return my son to me. I'm going to go get him.
Ow, it hurts! Hey, I haven't even touched you yet. Stop being a baby. Kandimba! Get back here! Kandimba! Kandimba! Where are you?
What's with that face? You don't feel well? How did your interview go? Bad. Really bad. Well, I'd like to have a cup of coffee, please.
I want to help you out.
Your
I really
father
can't.
won't let you.
It's just that at this time, the sales of the store don't justify hiring another person, Auntie.
But if that's the issue, I could work on commission, Sarah. I already proved to you I'm a good
Look,
salesperson.
I'm really sorry, but jobs don't just pop up because people need them.
Maybe you should find someone who feels as lonely as you do. Someone who knows how to spoil you and likes it.
A very warm welcome back to Home Study on Eswatini TV, and a very good afternoon to you if you have just joined us. My name is Nogwazi Dlamini, and right now we are doing mathematics for the Form 4s with Ndingi Mamba. Ndingi, it's good to see you again. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Thank you, Liz.
I'm doing good, thank you very much. Today we're doing special angles in trigonometry.
Yes, please.
All right. What are you expecting your Form 4s to have learned by the end of the lesson?
They must be able to simplify trigonometric expressions using special angles, solve trigonometric equations for angles between 0 and 360 degrees.
Okay.
And they must also use the sine and cosine values for obtuse angles.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for that, Ndingi. Form 4s, I hope that you are ready for your lesson. And of course, a reminder that we are live right now on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use our WhatsApp number. Ndingi, you may please begin with your lesson.
Thank you, Gwazi. Good afternoon, dear Lena at home. So today we're going to be looking at trigonometry. So I'll ask that you pay special attention, because what we're going to be talking about today is something that has been recently added into our syllabus. So it's relatively new. Some of the content is not found in the books, but some of it is also going to be found in our books. You might ask yourself, Lena, why is it important to learn about trigonometry? So in trigonometry, we are going to be specifically dealing with angles. So in construction, they use angles in the construction of buildings, even when determining seasons of the year. They use the angle at which the sun's rays hit the earth. So we need to know something about angles. So I had already said, Lena, that at the end of the lesson today, you must be able to simplify trigonometric expressions using special angles without using a calculator. That's the tricky part. And then you must solve trigonometric equations. So now we have equations that have to do with trigonometry for angles between 0 and 360, and use sine and cosine formulas for obtuse angles. Now, before we proceed, what do we need to remember for the lesson? So we must remember the trigonometry of a right-angled triangle, and we must also remember angles from bearings, polygons, and vectors. And then for a right-angled triangle, we must also remember the ratios of the sine ratio, cosine ratio, and tangent of angles. And we were basically talking about, before we were talking about only a right angle triangle, so which is an angle for angles that are between 90 and 0, so 0 and 90. So let us then move on to our lesson, dear Lena. So we'll start by explaining what we mean by special angles. So these special angles, we are saying they are special because their trig ratios can be expressed in rational forms. Let us look at this our triangle here. So this triangle is an equilateral triangle, so with side length being 2. And then for this particular equilateral triangle, we can drop a perpendicular height which is going to bisect the base here, giving it as 2 into 2 equal parts with length 1 unit. So we want to find the trig ratios using the sides of this particular triangle. So we can, after bisecting, we can find the length of this triangle, this part. Let us focus on this one triangle here. We can find the length using Pythagoras theory. So from Pythagoras, this is the hypotenuse, and then we said this side, which we can call our edge, we can get our edge by finding the square root of 2 squared minus 1 squared. So the square root of 2 squared minus 1 squared will give us our edge. So the square root of 2 is 4, so that our edge is given as root 3. So now we have
all the sides of this triangle. Remember, we're focusing on only this triangle here. So we have a side which is 1, we have a side which is √3, and we have a side which is 2. And 2 in this case is our hypotenuse. So we can give now the ratios, the trig ratios for an angle here. Remember, we said this is an equilateral triangle. So for an equilateral triangle, all the sides are equal, and the interior angles here are also going to be equal, and they will be equal to 60 degrees. Hence we have our angle 60 degrees. So we can give the trig ratios for this, our angle 60 degrees here. The cosine of 60, we said cosine is given as the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So we have 1 over 2. And then the sine of 60 is given as the opposite side over the hypotenuse. So the opposite is √3, and then our hypotenuse is 2. And then the tangent, we said it is the opposite side over the adjacent side. Hence our tangent is √3 over 1, which is the same as √3. And then if we extract another 1/2 of the angle, so if we take now this angle on this side, now extracting this angle, we are going to get another special angle. So the special angles, dear Lena, our special angles is going to be 60 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 90. So those are our special angles. So they are special again because we can express their trig ratios in rational form. So from this triangle, if this angle is 60 degrees, then this particular angle here is going to be 30. So we have 30. This is the 60 degrees from our equilateral triangle. So now, and we know that the sum of interior angles in a in a triangle is 180. So if this is 60, then this is going to be 30 because this is 90. Again, we can use the sides now to express the trig ratios for our special angle, which is 30 degrees. So again, cosine, it is the adjacent, which is √3 over the hypotenuse, which is 2. And then the sine, it is the opposite over the hypotenuse, which is sine of 30, which is 1 over 2. And then the tangent of 30 is going to be the opposite, which is 1 over the adjacent side. This is our adjacent side, the opposite of our adjacent, so which is 1 over √3. So you can see that we have been able to express this radically. And then the other special angle is the angle 45 degrees. But how do we get the angle 45 using triangles of very small length? We can use a right-angled isosceles triangle. So if we have a right-angled isosceles triangle, so these two sides are equal, these ones, so they are of length 1 unit. So by Pythagoras again, the hypotenuse is going to be the square root of 2. So that now if we want to give the sine, or because this is 90 and these two sides are equal, we said these other angles are going to be equal. So they will add up to 90. So we get them by saying 90 divided by 2, which gives us 45. Hence we have a 45 there. That is our angle. So once we have the angle 45, again we can find the trig ratios of 45 degrees and express them radically. So we have sine. So sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So our hypotenuse is √2. So it's going to be 1 over root 2. And then cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, which is 1 over root 2. And then the tangent of 45 is going to be the opposite over the adjacent, which is 1 over 1, giving us 1. So these are the expressions. We can summarize them in a table form. The sine for angle 30, which is our special angle, is going to be a half. And then for angle 45, the sine is going to be 1 over root 2. And then for angle 60 degrees, the sine is going to be root 3 over 2. And then the cosine for 30 degrees is going to be root 3 over 2. And then the cosine for angle 45 degrees is 1 over root 2. And then the cosine for 60 degrees is 1 over 2. And then the tangent for 30 degrees is 1 over root 3. And then tangent 45 degrees is 1. And the tangent for 60 degrees is root 3. So these are our special angles, such that we can then use this summary here in application. Let us say now we are asked to simplify without using a calculator. So we're asked to simplify without using a calculator. We know that trig ratios, we simplify them using a calculator. But in this case, they've said, let us simplify without using a calculator by finding tan 45 minus sine 30 cos 60. So this is the same as tan 45 minus sine 30 times cos 60. Cos 60 degrees. So what do we do then? We can go back to our summary. Look for tan 45. It is 1. So we substitute tan 45 is 1, which can be expressed as 1 over 1. And then minus sine 30 from our table. Sine of 30 is a half. We are not using a calculator, remember. Times the cosine of 60, which is also a half. So we go back, and then we have our 1, which is tan 45 minus a half times a half, where this half is the sine of 30 and that one is the cosine of 60. So multiplying what is inside the brackets, we multiply 1 times 1, we get 1, 2 times 2, we get 4, so that we have 1 over 4. So 1 minus 1 over 4 gives us 3 quarters, or 3 over 4. So now we have simplified. The same thing, we can simplify 2 sine 45 multiplied by 2 cos 45. So we go back again to our table. Sine 45 is 1 over root 2, and cosine 45 is also 1 over root 2. So we are still not using a calculator, so it's going to be 2 times 1 over root 2 multiplied by 2 times 1 over root 2. So when you multiply this one, you are going to get 2 times 1, you're going to get 2 over root 2, and then the other one is also going to be 2 over root 2. And these are fractions. So when you multiply these fractions, you multiply the numerators. So it's going to be 2 times 2 giving us 4. And then root 2 times root 2 is going to give us 2. So because this is the same as the square root of 2 squared. So the squared removes the square root. So we get 2. And then 4 divided by 2, we get our answer as 2. So here we're looking at special angles. So we said they're special because we can express their trig ratios radically. That is using fractions that have the root sign. And then we want to proceed now and look at the application now of what we were doing. But now we want not to restrict ourselves only to angles ranging between 0 and 90. So we want to look at the trig ratios for the sine, the cosine, and the tangents for angles between 0 and up to 360 degrees. So that is angles in a complete revolution. So we want to look for their sines, cosines, and tangents. And then now we are going to study their relationship, study how they appear. So we are going to use a unit circle. So a unit circle is a circle that has a radius which is 1 unit. And then a point at here is going to have the coordinates x, y. And then our right angle triangle here is going to be this one. Let us look at the green right angled triangle here. So because this is the right angle, so our angle theta that we are going to be talking about is that angle theta. So here we know that the sine of angle theta is going to be given by the opposite side, this one, or divided by the hypotenuse. We said the radius is 1. So it's going to be the y coordinate divided by 1. So the value represented by the y coordinate, because that will give us the length of this side here, divided by 1. So that we can express now sine as sine theta is equal to 1 over y, which is equal to y. And then the cosine now of theta here is going to be given by the adjacent side. So the adjacent side here, you will notice that it is there. We said this is xy, so it's going to be the x coordinate at that point. So that cosine theta is going to be given by x divided by the hypotenuse, which is 1. And then that gives us an x. So x divided by 1 is x. So that in the unit circle, we can take our sine to be given by the y coordinate and our cosine to be given by the x coordinate. And then for tangent we said it is the opposite over the adjacent. So this is opposite over adjacent. So the opposite is the y, and then the adjacent side is the x. So that our tan theta is going to be given by y over x. So these are in this particular quadrant, or in this Cartesian plane, this is a quadrant because it's 1/4 so of the plane. So in this quadrant, which is our first quadrant, we can also notice that the value of sine is given by y, and the y in this case is positive. The value of cosine is given by x, and the x in this case is positive. So that our tangent is given by y over x, which is also positive. Let us now take the very same right angle triangle to the second quadrant. So in the second quadrant, we said the sine is given by y. So you will notice that for angles in this quadrant, the sine is going to be given by y, and then the cosine will be given by x, and then the tangent is going to be given by y over x. But in this quadrant, the y is positive and then the x is negative. So you will notice that in this quadrant, the tangent is going to be negative because one of the values is negative. Let us proceed now. Take again this right angle triangle now to the third quadrant. So in the third quadrant, this is our theta there, and then still the sign is given by the opposite side, which is the y, and in this case y is negative, and then the cosine is given by x, and the x coordinates in this quadrant here is also negative, so negative x, so that now our sign here, the sine ratio is going to be negative y, the cosine ratio is going to be negative x, but the tangent ratio is going to be negative y over negative x, so that it remains positive. It is positive. Now in the next quadrant, which is the fourth quadrant, this is still our theta, and then the theta here is so there's the sign, it is still the y, in this case y is negative, and then the cosine now, which is x, is positive, and then we can see that the tangent here is going to be negative. So we can summarize to say that in the first quadrant all the trig ratios are positive, second quadrant only sine is positive, third quadrant only tangent is positive, and fourth quadrant only cosine is positive. Then we can use this in application. Let us now say we are asked to find the sine of 225. So before we can find the sine of 225, we first have to find the acute angle that is corresponding to 225. So 225 is in the third quadrant. So the acute angle corresponding to 225 is this angle here. So how do you get this angle? We get this angle by saying 225 minus 180, so that the acute angle corresponding to 225 is 45. So the sine of 225 is going to be equal to the sine of the acute angle. And then we said it is in the third quadrant. So what do we know about sine in the third quadrant? We said sine in the third quadrant is negative. So it's going to be the sine of 45, but because it is for 225, which is in the third quadrant, it is going to be negative 1 over root 2. So you can do the same, dear Lena, for the cosine of 300. You find the acute angle, which is 360 minus 300, because 300 is in the fourth quadrant. So you get that it is the same as the cosine of 60. So the cosine of 60 is half, because 60 is part of the special angles. So but 300 is in the fourth quadrant, and we said cosine is positive in the fourth quadrant. So the cosine of 300 is going to be 1 over 2. So it is very important, dear Lena, what we have looked at today is expressing trig ratios for special angles. And then we said for angles above 90 in up to 360, when we want to find their trig ratios, first we have to identify the quadrant in which they are found, so that we can be able to know whether they are positive or negative, and then find the acute angle that corresponds to that particular angle. Gwazi.
Thank you very much, Ndingi, for your lesson, and we're hoping your Form 4s enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll be seeing you.
You definitely will.
All right, thank you so much. Viewers at home, please do not go anywhere. Lerato and myself will be right back after this.
Your favorite music show is back. We're bringing you the hottest music videos and live studio interviews with your favorite celebrities. We're giving you a front row seat to the latest fashion trends as well as your weekend gig guide. Join us live on social media and call in to send in your shout-outs. Catch This Weekend Eswatini every Friday at 5:30 p.m. live on Eswatini TV.
Welcome back to Home Study. Unfortunately, that was the last lesson for the day. We're hoping that you had a beautiful day. How was your day?
My day was good. I actually enjoyed the social studies lesson, which was teaching us about rules in our community.
Yeah.
How was your day today?
My day was beautiful. Thank you very much. I'll leave it at that. All right. Tomorrow is a Wednesday. I hope you guys are looking forward to your Wednesday. And this is what your Wednesday of learning looks like. From 2 p.m. until 2:30 p.m., we have general studies for the grades 1 and 2. From 2:30 p.m. until 3 p.m., we have religious education for grades 3 and 4. From 3 p.m. until 3:30 p.m., we have science for grades 5 and 6. From 3:30 p.m. until 4 p.m., we have religious education for forms 1 and 2. From 4 p.m. until 4:30 p.m. we have Eswatini for the Form 4s. And the last subject for the day is religious education for the Form 4s from 4:30 p.m. until 5 p.m.
Oh yes, dear viewer, and please do not forget that we have social media platforms, which are YouTube and Facebook, where we are live from 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. And please do not forget to click that subscribe button so that whenever we are live, you get a notification.
Yes, of course, don't forget that bell as well. Click on it so that you get notifications like Lerato has said. And of course, to remind you guys about our WhatsApp number that you can use to ask any questions for the lessons that that actually you are watching. All right, we will see you guys tomorrow at 2 p.m. Have a beautiful Tuesday evening. We'll see you tomorrow 2 p.m. sharp.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Your mother's home. Aren't you going to go down and join them for
I'm
dinner?
studying for a test, remember? Leave me alone.
You can fool your parents, but you can't fool me. You've changed a lot ever since that Brazilian left.
That's what you think.
No man will ever be worth a woman's tears, darling. Do you remember the dancer?
What dancer?
The one I met at the dance all those years ago. I told you about him, remember?
No.
I know you really don't care about it. Well, I ran into him again the other day at the Social Security office.
Really?
Sebastian. We decided to talk and catch up for a while. He got married, had a daughter.